Guys, here we are this morning. We were a little behind the 8 ball and still are a little there. Lower B4, we're at negative 1.42, meaning we have some room to the downside.
Stop filled.
Our brackets are rotating to the downside. Maybe adjust this a little bit. We have not yet kissed the Tinkinson. Kiss dots here. You could have the opportunity to do that. So what I'm gonna do, I do not want to take that drawdown. If it does come back and kiss, I'd rather get out and get back in instead of hold position. I'd rather let it go and re-engage.
Stop filled.
Than to hold a drawdown with this many contracts. Just not feasible to do that. If it did pull back on us. Right before we came on in the live stream here, I called out that in 9 minutes, 6 minutes to 9 minutes, we should see a move. There it is. Right on the 9-minute mark. The reason why we said there should be a significant move was because of the Shoyu, or Ichimoku Kyushu. I didn't expect that big of a move, but I expected some movement to the downside. Now we've made it all the way to our go long on our, that's on our algo, on our trading view chart. Trading view charts are a little different. Their data is aggregated a little differently than the way that NinjaTrader does theirs. So our charts vary from NinjaTrader to TradingView, and that's going to be with anybody's indicators. Just because of the data differences, there's nothing we can do about that. You'll just have to choose one or the other. But we are at support on our TradingView chart. Here we're at support as well with our bracket, and our ultimate target is our go long right here.
Stop filled.
I'm thinking we're going to take some possible, where we're at, 2.95. Guys, if you've been following along with me, you know that we look at our lower B4 oscillator here with our 210 bars on the ES, and we notice the swing points are very, very predictable. You usually have about a -3 on the downside and a +3 on the bullish side, and what we look at is that 0 area for pullbacks, continuations. So if we pull back here, we could expect this to come back up to our 0 area, and if the bears take control again, looking at our L2 profile right here, this is an area of interest right here at 702, which would line up with our 0 line here, which would line up, doesn't really line up with our volume profiling, other than these ends of right here. This candle here, the bottom of that candle, lining up with our L2 profile as well. We're bearish.
Order filled.
Okay, that's taking a trade contrary, so I'll let that go to about $4,500 if I take any heat on that. 12 contracts. That's, I just guesstimate when I'm looking at that. Usually pretty accurate with it. We'll lock that in, thinking this is just a retracement.
Stop filled.
Looking at the lower B4 indicator right here. Now notice it's come up into the 0 line, and we lost our histogram here, meaning we're losing momentum. So I'm looking for shorts again. Again, remember the spots that we look at with our lower B4 guys. We look at the -3, we look at the 0, we look at the +3. A lot of our moves will come down. If we look for a continuation to the downside, we look for it to bounce at our 0 line. That doesn't mean it's going to do that here. I would wait before I got involved there, because look at all the buyers on our L2 versus not many sellers here on. So we got more buyers dominating right now. So I wouldn't be just jumping into that because it's it looks mechanical here. You got to look at your orders too. I would wait before I decided to just jump on a short right now. Now I do have our CoPilot Pro turned on. Now if it does get into a signal with the order flow, I'm okay with that. Even though I'm looking at other things, if it does get into it, I'll probably adjust my risk. Right now, the CVD is to the bear side. So who's dominating the market right now? Well, you can look at your CVD line right here. Bears are, we have some other indicators I don't have on the chart right now. But you know, I just have, there's others that we have. But I do like the CVD. It usually tells us who's dominating the presence of the market. So I do enjoy having it on the charts. Looking here, we got a lot of buying interest. Not as much sellers right now. We've been kind of hovering right here. What can happen, what you can do, guys, and you can do with our chart trader, is you could come in here and say, okay, well, we have this is an inflection point here. This is a battleground area, and we know that whenever you get out of that battleground area, it's like tug of war. You know, you put a little thing on, a little flag on your tug of war, and whenever it crosses over that line and one person starts hitting, when one person falls, that thing moves.
Order filled.
And you can get involved in some fast little movement where you got time to lock in profit. Typically, whenever that happens, and it's breaking to the downside right now, those bulls and bears are tugging, and somebody fell off the line there. And that rope got yanked. There it is. It's getting pulled to the downside. And like I said, it usually has enough push in them that you can lock in. So we're at least locked in and paid for the trade right now. That's all I really care about right now. I'm watching how it dances right here. I don't feel comfortable tightening up on it. We are at a support here. I'm just comfortable locking in and saying, okay, we paid for it, and if we make some money, we can. If not, then we're in a good position here. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. One thing that's really nice about the way I have it set up here with the delta divergence and the unfinished auctions, you'll see I'll guard some of these trades and guard them at these levels. I noticed that for my style trading, how I like to trade, that these order flow signals are perfect for me because I can guard a position, guard it in profit, minimize my risk, whatever.
Order filled.
And then right after that level, like we did right here, I'll typically get another entrance. What that does for me, that allows me to have a little safety net, and rest assured, if the market participants get heavy after that level, then it gets me back into the trade. So it allows me the perfect balance of security and confidence. So I do like that. And that was a good example of it right there. Now I'm looking at this. Where are we at here in the big scheme of things? Where are we at? How much room do we have in this move? We are right here below the 0 line. We're right at the 1. What I typically do, I'll come in here and I'll draw little zones on my little B4. I'll put a little thing 1 to 1. I'll put a zone in there, and then I'll come from 2 to 3 and -2 to 3 and put a zone in there. Knowing that 0 to 1 to 1 is kind of a bounce zone. We are at the lowest point of the day, the previous session low. I love having this 30-minute profile here. Of course, those aren't volume profiles. Those are our footprint charts, but I'm using it as a volume profile. Same principles, slightly different names, naming conventions versus a footprint chart versus a volume profile, but same concepts. I know that there were sellers here that pushed it down. The crux of the volume is right here, and who's in charge there? Basically the sellers. We want to stay below that point of control. That's our line in the sand, basically. And if it breaks them, these sellers here, but we'll use that to understand volume at price. You know, when I first started trading, everybody talking about volume. Well, volume with it looking at time, you know, on the bottom of your chart here, going horizontal across here. I never did care what they said about it, because if I want to see what's happening there, I just look at the volume of the candle. The candle's going to tell the story. Why do I need a duplicate? Tell me the same thing. Never made much sense to me until I started looking at volume profile. You flip that on its axis and look at volume at price. Whoa. Now I see value. Total different story.
Stop filled.
All right. Let's see what we got here. That was good enough for me to bow out of that for right now. We're close to our bracket. I'll let the order flow excuse me, get me back in if that's what it's going to do. Looking here with the lower B4 indicator, we're at 1.79. We still got plenty of meat on the bone here for downside opportunity. The problem is we got supports right here. I would rather see us break through that